Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
The whole summer. We had the whole summer for all of these contracts. And then McDavid signs one absolutely insane contract, mind you. And the floodgates open, and Eichel signs, and Connor signs, and Ekholm signs. All these people are signing. It's like we had the whole summer to make this interesting. And now all of this before our Detroit Red Wings season preview episode. There's very few like bolt on. This episode's going to be big. It does not matter what the news is. It's going to be the entire episode is just this pre-baked content, and they just gravitate towards that.
Were you hoping this was going to be a peaceful episode?
I had no ambitions of a peaceful episode.
I just thought it was weird that you rhymed off all the contracts but Wallman.
I'm just happy for Wallman, honestly.
Who
Good
is
for him?
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to say, like, if you're on a boat in the middle of the summer, you're not thinking about your contract.
Oh, I was going
Now that you're back to work, it's time to, think about those sorts of things.
I don't think you could have said anything less relatable for Brad and I to understand the vibe here. So, sorry.
Imagine yourself being on a boat.
Yeah.
If you can.
The amount of boats I was on, over under 0.5. What are you guys taking?
Well, if you're on half a boat, that's not good.
Oh, yeah. You really are a dad, huh? You're ready.
Yes.
Although, apparently, you are still dealing with a kid who's just, sitting there ripping farts and not doing much else. So
he's 75% gas right now.
He comes by it honestly, knowing you.
Yes.
Folks, the Detroit Red Wings season preview episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast. We're going to get to all that news we talked about. Not to worry. We're just kidding. We actually are excited that there's a lot happening because it means hockey's back. This is our last episode before the Detroit Red Wings drop the puck on their 2025-2026 season. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings this upcoming year, the world of the NHL, and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
This episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast is proudly presented by Greenlight Lending. Red lights are meant for lighting the lamp at the rink, not your home ownership goals. Head to gogreenlightlending.com today for creative mortgage solutions with flexible closing cost options. Licensed only in Michigan, NMLS 2676683, and equal housing opportunity lender and proud sponsor of the Winged Wheel Podcast. On this episode of the show, as you can put together, it's our full Detroit Red Wings season preview. So top to bottom, we're going to be covering our analysis, predictions, breakdowns, everything to do with Hockeytown this upcoming season. Forwards, defense, goalies, special teams, coaching, storylines, predictions, points, standings analysis, all of that and lots more. We're going to be talking about Red Wings news that has come out within the last few days, the flood of NHL news, and whatever else we can get to before overtime. Probably going to be a bigger episode than usual, so our usual cadence is going to be a little bit more drawn out than what you would expect, mid-season or off-season. But hey, these are the fun ones. Very quickly, Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the LCA is Saturday, November 15th. Go to wingedwheelpodcast.com/Red Wings to get your tickets. That is a partnered event between us and the Detroit Red Wings where we host a live episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast at Little Caesars Arena featuring special guests like Ken Daniels, Rob Ray, other special guests involving the Centennial jersey and logo design with the Detroit Red Wings. You not only get tickets to the game and the pregame live recording of the podcast, you also get a sweet Winged Wheel Podcast and Detroit Red Wings co-branded Centennial season themed blanket with their Centennial logo and our 10th anniversary logo. You also get access to the pregame meet and greet, merch, prizes, giveaways, all of that and lots more. Every ticket is actually discounted. You get a special WWP discount, and there is a donation to the Jamie Daniels Foundation baked into every ticket as well. So again, wingedwheelpodcast.com/Red Wings. All right. The forwards, I think, is a great place to start. And is this the most confident we've been in the Red Wings forwards coming into a season? Actually, I think, is this the most confident we've been in the Red Wings coming into a season since we started this podcast more than 10 years ago?
Your phrasing there is very key. The most confident? Yes. But I am not confident.
Yeah, there's still questions.
Yes. We are rising on the escalator here, but we are not at the top yet where I would consider that confident. I don't even know if confidence, like the right word, obviously, all jokes aside. Cautiously optimistic is how I would phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
I see genuine upside here. I see reason to believe the bottom six won't be the offensive black hole that it's been for the entirety of this podcast until I see it actually happen. Again, I can't say I'm confident in that, but cautiously optimistic, I think, is where I'm at on that group.
So before we actually jump into the player-by-player, line-by-line analysis, I should say the official rosters were registered on Monday by 5 Eastern, and as predicted, the 3 kids who are healthy and challenging for the roster did make it. Emmitt Finnie makes it, Michael Brandsegg-Nygard makes it, and on defense, Axel Sandin-Pellikka makes it. Obviously, Nate Danielson is injured, probably out for a little bit here at least. Otherwise, he very well could have made that conversation even more interesting. The waiving of Justin Hall and Erik Gustafsson, both of them cleared waivers. Hall was sent down. Gustafsson, not yet. They have the option to do it. JVR, because he was away for family reasons, they can technically call him non-roster for now. He's easing his way back in. Not playing Thursday, they're going to see about Saturday just as he gets up to game speed. But when he slots back in, someone will have to come out, so we'll see who that is. But the 3 kids did indeed make it. Everything else was as expected. So, I mean, we have to start with the key players here, and let's start with the captain, Dylan Larkin. What are you looking at this season for Dylan Larkin? What are your predictions, and what has to happen for Dylan Larkin this year for this to be a successful Red Wings season?
He's got to stay healthy. I think it's that simple. Dylan Larkin at this point in his career, I think anybody who's watched the Red Wings for longer than 2 years has a really good idea of what he is. He'll flirt with a point per game. He's going to get you 30 goals. You know, good 200-foot player, the engine of that forward group, ultra high compete, but there have not been a lot of years where we have seen that consistently for 82 games because a bunch of times he's missed a good chunk of games, or like last season, he was playing very obviously hurt for the last, what would you call it, 6 to 8 weeks of the season. And it affects him. It's noticeable. I love that he is this consistent when he's playing in terms of what he brings offensively, defensively, from a leadership role. But the style of game he plays comes with a price. And that is he's going to get knocked around a lot. And when that happens, injuries almost feel inevitable. So hopefully this is the season where he can string that together for 78 to 82 games.
So last year, 30 goals, 40 assists, 70 points in a full 82 games. But like you said, Brad, after 4 Nations, he just wasn't the same. You really didn't see him come back to any kind of form until like the 11th hour of the season. Raymond, we'll talk about him in a second here, had the same kind of slump to start after 4 Nations, but then came back to form earlier. But still 70 points. I don't want to call him Detroit's most important player because I don't think that's true anymore, at least not like, you know, unanimous if you were to poll Red Wings fans. But he is in the most important tier of Red Wings players. And if his season isn't to the level that the Red Wings need to be, then the season's a write-off. He is that important. He is a cornerstone piece. So yeah, it's not a worry about Dylan Larkin's game or what he brings or the passion or anything like that. It's just the health. And the only reason that is just a continued conversation to the same intensity as last year is because this year you have the Olympic tournament. It's a longer time frame, but it's going to be less of a pace, I think, in terms of the intensity, like Bash Bros brute force that the 4 Nations was, but it's still going to be an extra ask of him on his body. And at a time of the year where it's not a lot of time left after that to kind of recover if the Red Wings are on the fringe of a playoff spot, which with a good result this year is where they hope to be. So there's all the faith in the world in what Dylan Larkin can do. It's not a question of how he can improve his game or produce or anything like that. He does that in spades. It's just doing it in March and April is going to be key.
Yeah, the key is health and availability, right? And I would assume now that he's kind of done one iteration through, I'll say, international play mid-season, that he took some good learnings from that and it can help pace himself and keep his body in a good spot to be able to play at the same level for the entirety of the season. Because like we noted last episode, the Atlantic hasn't gotten any less competitive. Every game from day one until game 82 is going to be critically important, especially the interdivision play. He has to be available and has to be able to keep it running as high as he possibly can the whole season.
In terms of points, even a 70-point season, I think that would be the lower end of what you would expect for a healthy season from Larkin. I still think he could be a guy that could be even over a point per game, but it just depends, right, on that top line winger spot. And the best players in the league will reach certain plateaus just off their own talent. But you move off of that superstar tier, there are guys who have 80, 90, even 100-point potential, but they're not going to crack that unless they have a full complement of players around them, at the very least on their own forward line, not to mention on defense as well, if you think of the Colorado when they have Makar behind them kind of thing, to be able to ascend to the 90-point range or 100-point range. So I think Larkin has more in him offensively. And this isn't a knock on Finnie or whoever else lands in that spot, but the hope this season isn't that the Red Wings have someone who is a true top-line left wing there. The hope for the Red Wings is just that they have someone who can stick there somewhat consistently. Like the bar is so much lower than what Larkin would need to kind of take that next step in terms of production. That part's always been frustrating for me, where I'm like, I think we all know Larkin could put out more, but it's just very rarely has he had a full set of true top-line wingers. But that's secondary this year to everything else we just mentioned in my mind. He still has Lucas Raymond, who's only getting better every year.
100%.
Speaking of which, Lucas Raymond, 27 goals, 53 assists, 80 points last year. And again, barring that Four Nations slump afterwards, he probably would have been in conversation with, the Alex DeBrincat types for team MVP last season. And Lucas Raymond, even with having that cold streak, had an 80-point year. And we've been watching him for 4 years now get better and better and better and better. Is there another step this year?
I think so. Like you said, because of the cold streak that hindered what he could have done last year. He's young enough that there's still room for improvement. He's not a guy who relies on speed to be as great as he is. So I think he's one of those guys who could keep getting better all the way to 26, 27 years old before he starts to hit that, peak of his performance. Not saying he's going to be a 100-point guy, but I think it's very possible that if they can figure out that left wing spot with him and Larkin, that he's going to be a 90-point plus guy. And honestly, the power play could be a huge reason for that because they haven't broken up that unit and there's no reason to. So even if, Finnie's only a column 30, 40-point guy, I think 90 points is still within reach for Raymond just because of the power play, the natural progression to his game. And again, it's relevant to him as well. Hopefully a healthy 82 games out of his centerman, Dylan Larkin.
Yeah. And we'll talk about defense later, but if ASP sticks on this roster, that is an offensive weapon added back to the blue line that the Red Wings were kind of missing last year after they lost Shane Gostisbehere from the season prior. So there is more around him. Lucas Raymond, I see as a complete player. Like he's that kind of guy where when people who don't watch the Red Wings watch him play, they're like, oh wow, he does everything good, huh? And you're like, yeah, that's Lucas Raymond. He really does it all. And he doesn't play like a soft game. He doesn't play a small game. He's reliable and he works hard in both directions up and down the ice and gets to the soft areas. You can see him figure things out in terms of like finding space, but he'll power through areas as well. There's always a want from Red Wings fans for Lucas Raymond to lean on his shot more because I think he has more in him that way, which is a great problem to have, right? Like you score 27 goals and people are like, you could have put up 35 easy. Good. That's only room for improvement. This is his forward group in my mind. Like this team goes as Lucas Raymond goes more than anyone else on offense, and there's really not any concern. to a lesser degree, but still with what we talked about with Larkin, the Olympics, you're going to be looking out to see how he handles that afterwards. But other than that, like Lucas Raymond has been, like the question is, does he change people's mind and truly become a superstar this year?
I think for me, if Dylan Larkin's the engine of the forward group, then Lucas Raymond is sort of the tip of the spear. Like, he needs to be the best forward on the team. He is absolutely the guy who could be chasing a 100-point season. And I think he's got the tools to do it. Mind you, we're going to take a shot every time we say, if they figure out the left wing position on the top line, if they had
we have 3 bottles of JP Weiser's Red Wings Special Edition.
That might not be enough. That might not be enough. But in reality, with how the team's currently set up, he is the best forward on this team. And I this season and next are going to be when we find out if Lucas Raymond's going to ascend to, the 100-point, that's a different tier of winger in the NHL. Does he have that in him? By all rights, every year he keeps getting better and better and better on the team has been a non-playoff team. So I think he's got the tools to do it. Like you said, he could easily be a 30-goal scorer. Easily. I'm really excited to see what he can do, whether that's with Finnie or Van Riemsdyk or Soderblom on their left wing. He is the key forward, the key point producer on this team.
30-goal scorer this season prior, for what it's worth, 31 that year. So we know he can do it.
When you hear the term modern hockey thrown around, like the style of play, I think of all forwards on the Red Wings, that suits Lucas Raymond the best, and he thrives in it the most. Everybody needs to play quick, but not in the sense of like a Connor McDavid or a Nathan McKinnon where you're going to pick the puck up and you're just going to rush down the ice at 1 billion miles an hour and make something happen off the rush. If you watch all the elite teams in the league, they can get the puck in the offensive zone and just keep it there for a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes. We saw them do it against Toronto on Saturday where they literally got a full line change in and Patrick Kane ended up scoring at the end of it, but that was started with the Larkin Raymond line where they pinned Toronto for a minute and a half. And what I mean by that is these elite teams and these elite players have the ability to get the puck in the offensive zone and basically play keep away until they get a look they like, because they're not skating fast, but everything's happening fast. Quick give and goes, reads, find the seam, find the soft spot when you don't have the puck, move. And it's just this, game of passing and move and give and go. And you're keeping the defense so far on their heels, they can't ever pressure you because everything you're doing is so fast. Larkin and Raymond excel at that. Raymond especially. It's why a guy like Patrick Kane at his age can still be effective, because he doesn't move fast, but he can play fast. And Kasper and DeBrincat can obviously do that, and we know Larkin and Raymond can do it, but Raymond, I think, does it better than anybody on the Red Wings. We know to varying degrees what Soderblom and Finnie and Copp and JVR are good at, but the reason I think everybody has a concern with whoever plays there on that top line is Larkin and Raymond play a very fast, very high IQ game, and that is not easy to keep up with, because if you're playing with them and you get that puck in one of these bang-bang plays and you don't make the right read or you don't get to your spot quick enough, it kills the whole play. And I think if they find someone that can keep up with Larkin and Raymond in that modern style of offense, that line's damn near unstoppable. We've seen it at points. But if they don't, that's the only real hesitation I have to Raymond and Larkin hitting their ceilings this year, because they just need someone who can not only be that, go in and get the puck guy like Finnie is, but once they have it, you got to keep up.
And let's now jump into Emmitt Finnie. So this is about, the player, but also the position. So it's kind of two different conversations here. But Emmitt Finnie, by all rights right now, is the guy who should get at least a look on that first line left wing position. The second line is solidified. It looks like the third line, they're going to try to go with Copp, Compher, and Brandsegg-Nygard, and the fourth line being whatever it is. Finnie is the only one who's made a real claim to that first line left wing spot. And as a rookie, like, the expectations of him have to be divorced from what the Red Wings need from that first line left wing spot, which is why the kind of theme of this whole season is there's so much to be excited for. But at the end of the day, the Red Wings are making the decision to potentially go with a very young team, and that could mean things don't all click right away. So with Emmitt Finnie, I see a guy who has an insanely high motor, skates extremely well, but it's also the compete in there too. I think he has shown way more offensive talent than a 7th round pick typically has. When he steps on the ice, he'll be the first Red Wings rookie 7th round pick to make the team as a rookie since Henrik Zetterberg on the opening night roster, which is a phenomenal accomplishment to be the first guy to do that in 23 years. You can't take that away from him, and for him to be able to step into the role on the first line is something too. Like they're not just handing this to him. They're doing it because he has the skating to keep up with those two, as Brad said. They're doing it because they think he has some ability offensively. He could potentially not look out of place. I'm stopping short of saying he won't look out of place. Like you have to not pin too high of expectations on the kids because they're going to make a name for themselves in this league and on this team, but it might not be right away in how we all think. So I'm just trying to temper expectations. But for Finnie, I see a guy who, if all things go well, one, a measure of success is that he just sticks there. But two, I think he could be that kind of piano puller, what the Red Wings fancied the, I hate to say it, but like the Abdelkader Helm types back when they were at the peak of their performances back in the day with the Red Wings talented forwards back then.
I knew Abdelkader was coming.
But I had to. But not in a derogatory way.
No, he had good years with Datsuk and Zetterberg. He got that contract for a reason.
Yeah.
Whether or not he should have, but the numbers were there. Like, the expectations for Finnie have to be very realistic. He's not going to stick on that line all year in all likelihood. And people need to come to peace with that now. They're going to try different people there. He's going to have varying degrees of success. And like I said, there's not an insignificant chance he ends up back in Grand Rapids, and that's going to be the right call. Because you have to look at it this way. If he plays 82 games with Larkin and Raymond, he's getting Calder votes. Because the only way he plays 82 games with Larkin and Raymond is if it's going really, really well.
Or he's like that 40-point guy that you mentioned.
Yeah, he's going to get 40 to 50 points. And because he's got that story attached to him that's so wonderful, I'm not saying he's going to win the Calder, but he'll get on the ballot if he's putting up 40 points. Dude, if he puts up 45, 50 points on that line, he's getting nominated. Demidov is probably going to pop off for 80, but I'm just saying he'll get on the ballot. So, but again, if that is your expectation for Emmitt Finnie this year, your odds of disappointment are 98%, because that's insanity. Like, we want to talk about and get all excited about the rookies. I can stay in that frame of mind and give you a very good reason why to temper expectations still, because the one guy I really want to see get a look on that line, and we'll talk about him later, is Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, right? Like, he also earned his spot on the team, and I think he's well suited to play that role as well. And I think Finnie has the toolkit to also play where Brandsegg-Nygard is playing in the lineup right now. Like, the possibilities are, and the range of outcomes here are very, very wide. If Emmitt Finnie plays 20 games with the Red Wings, puts up 5 points, and gets sent back to Grand Rapids for the rest of the year, that is still a huge success story. So how you've put your mindset around this is going to frame the narrative that you have with Emmitt Finnie. He's on the roster. He's going to play games. 2 years removed from being a 7th round pick out of the WHL. Usually the late round picks that make the NHL this quickly come from some backwoods league in Europe that wasn't scouted enough, or where the translatability is harder to determine. Like some guy in the Allsvenskan who was a point per game player, and then all of a sudden, 7th round picks out of the CHL do not make the NHL in 2 years. It doesn't happen. It is unbelievably rare, and to be doing that starting on the first line is insanity.
Yeah, I almost want to ask.
Insanity.
We had to.
But
well, let's call a spade, and this is not an anti-Emmitt Finnie comment, but it's like, who else do you put there?
Yeah, he sees an opportunity that wouldn't exist in every team. It's not like he kicked out Lucas Raymond, you know?
Yeah,
all the stars had to align for him here. The whole point I'm making is anything he does from this point out in a positive manner is a success. whether that lasts 10, 20, 40, or 80 games. This is a win. Everybody's opinion and mindset around him needs to be that going into the season. And anything, every point, every goal, every good forecheck is added value to this team.
It's found money, right? Like,
yeah, it's a good
for
way of
everything
putting
you
it.
said, it's found money. And I think
Spend money.
shut up.
There's something there. You keep going.
You keep workshopping that one.
Yeah.
I know my first comment on Emmitt Finnie makes it sound like I'm down on him. I am very much part of Finsanity, so I want to make that very clear. And I think I know he's one of the best at this moment, one of the 12 best forwards on this team. So if they want to put MBN up on the first line and put Emmitt Finnie on the third line, that's still a net positive. I still think he adds an element to any of those lines. And it's still better than what the Red Wings have been trotting out the past few years. So this is not an anti-Emmitt Finnie conversation. I'm super excited to see what happens. And he was awesome in the preseason. He has an element there, many elements that I don't think anybody expected. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens when he gets thrust into the limelight on the first line left wing position. Or we'll see what happens if he gets down further in the lineup, if he can be that honey badger and produce with lesser players.
We very clearly stated here, what's the measure of success for Emmitt Finnie? Well, he's already accomplished it. Beyond this, the cherries on top and the sprinkles and everything else would be you just hang with an NHL pace, physicality grind of a season for as much of it as possible. If he goes down to the AHL, it doesn't mean he's there all year. He could come back up, and that doesn't mean it's a failure. But if this guy plays 82 games, that's a league-wide story success, whether people want to recognize it or not. So kudos to Emmitt Finnie, who's been just electric from the moment he was drafted, and I cannot wait. Found money is the exact right way to put it. I'm so pumped to see what he can do, even if it is 5 points in 20 games. Who cares? This is awesome. Another awesome story, continuation from last season, and who now has a lot on his shoulders, which is a continuation from the last season, Marco Kasper on the second line. And whether he stays there or whether he's a guy that's also moved around remains to be seen. But for now, that second line looks rock solid. What are you looking for from Marco Kasper this season, who just completely blew everyone's socks off last year?
Just avoid the sophomore slump. I'm not saying he needs to put up 50, 60, 70 points, but if he can anchor that second line, put up 40 to 50 points, let DeBrincat and Kane do their thing, that's a good season. Obviously, we know the ceiling for him is higher than that, but it doesn't mean he has to hit it this year. He's going into his sophomore season. He was a rookie last year. Like, we got to keep that in the back of our minds, because some of the conversations around Kasper, though optimistic and true, feel like we're getting out over our skis a little bit. Like, oh yeah, this guy's a number 2 75-point center. Yeah, there's a very good chance he becomes that. Doesn't mean it's this year. Just avoid the slump, continue his progression, be that rock solid 200-foot 2C to free up Kane and DeBrincat to do their thing, chip in enough offense. I'm happy. If there's any regression, obviously that's probably a disappointment, even though it is common to happen. The sophomore slump is a thing for a reason. But just continue the progression, continue working towards that ceiling, and it's a win for him.
The nice thing is he can look up the lineup, and Dylan Larkin's there, so he can lean on him to learn how to be a pro going into his second season. And then he's got Patrick Kane on his line, just another guy that he can lean on and how to stay and maintain his level of play at the NHL level. Like, this is the reason why you bring some of these kids in, and why you bring in some of these older guys to really teach this younger core how to be NHL players day in and day out. So if Marco Kasper avoids the sophomore slump, it won't be just on him. He feels like found money almost as well. Like, we were searching for the second line center, and out trots Marco Kasper. We were hoping that, maybe he'll be a middle 6 forward on this team. And he took that position, and it just looks like he looks like such a natural out there. It seems like it was a no-brainer the whole time.
Marco Kasper, through 77 games last year, had 19 goals, 18 assists for 37 points. If you're going to benchmark it, I'd love to see him flirt with that 50-point total. I think, as Brad said, he could blow right past it, or it could just be like 13 extra points is a huge step. So if he's getting in and around there, I think that's great for a 2C. And one more thing I'll add before we'll jump over to one of his wingers is it's not just learning from Larkin. It's, MBN is coming in and they see a lot of Marco Kasper's game that they want to exist in Brandsegg-Nygard's game, and he plays a lot of the same way. And so it's great for MBN to be able to look at Marco Kasper like, hey, what's he doing? Not always at the same position, right? Of course, but still, like, just the fundamentally, what is he bringing to this team on and off the ice that made him so successful last year, where he is now in a 2C role in his second season? MBN can look at that and say, not only is my path forward achievable, it's represented right in front of me, and there's a template for what I have to do from a guy who plays a lot like me. So I think that's a really cool thing to expect from Marco Kasper as well. Alex DeBrincat, who, 39 goals last year, nearly a 40-goal season, 70 points, played all 82 games. For most people's money, was the Red Wings MVP for the year, was the most consistent player, a guy who really kind of found his comfort zone after his first season in Detroit. And it just looks like the kind of Alex DeBrincat that the Red Wings knew they were getting when they brought him in. So what do you see from him in year 3 in the winged wheel?
40 goals, or he's a complete failure.
39 and a half. Best we can give you.
No, the reality for DeBrincat, whether it's fair or unfair to put it on him, he's playing with Kasper and Patrick Kane. His expectation is he needs to score goals. That 39 goals is great. That is an A+ season in everybody's books for Alex DeBrincat. He doesn't have a lot of room to drop off from that if the Red Wings are going to be good. Patrick Kane's going to get his goals. Marco Kasper is going to get his goals. But we know who's got to carry the load putting the puck in the net on that line. It's Alex DeBrincat. So all the other things he brings to the table, we've talked glowingly about he's got some snarl to his game, he's got some pace to his game, and he's got some underrated playmaking.
Someone on YouTube called him El Gato. I think we should roll with that.
I don't get it.
You can figure this out. I believe in you, Evan. El Gato. Evan. Oh.
What?
Okay, you keep going, Brad, and you shout when you figure it out.
We're going to be here a long time. How big's that SD card?
But the primary responsibility for Alex DeBrincat is to score goals. Like we talked about with Finnie, everything he does is found money. Every scrap, every scrum, every assist, everything DeBrincat does in that sense is found money. As long as he's scoring goals, I'm happy. And again, it's a lot of pressure to put on a guy, especially if he's played on the second line all year. But with who he's playing with the way that power play is supposed to look, yeah, I think 35 goals is the minimum for him to be like a successful season for where the Red Wings at. If he surprises the hell out of us and puts up 45, 50 assists, okay, great. Maybe we can adjust that number. But if he's putting up relatively the same ratios, I think that's kind of the range he's got to be in for it to be considered successful and for the Red Wings to truly have a chance of making the playoffs.
Did you say El Gato or Cato?
I said El Gato.
It's still okay. I don't get it still. But anyway.
But you do, though.
You're on the right track, man.
Okay.
Evan.
Me and Tully might have the same amount of body hair, but I do not speak Spanish like him.
Okay, what do you think El Gato means in Spanish?
I have no idea. I don't speak Spanish.
DeBrincat. DeBrincat.
Oh, yes. That's why I thought maybe you were saying Cato.
Oh.
Anyway.
When I think of DeBrincat, I think of that kind of more complete game that people give him credit for. As Brad was alluding to, I think his playmaking is really underrated and not to be overlooked. I think his snarl, I love how much of a mean streak and how nasty he is and how much he's willing to get into scrums. I think like that he brought that energy and that juice and that spark so many different games where the Red Wings looked lifeless last year. Where a lot of the times where I said this team looked turned around from the year prior, he was the one driving that, and he'd put the puck in the net. And it wasn't just with the classic Kane DeBrincat connection. It was the Lucas Raymond high to low pass Alex DeBrincat, who is at a tight angle, but the same way when Lucas Raymond is holding the puck and he's confident and you know he's going to make something happen, Alex DeBrincat shooting from those spots, you know he knows he can put that puck in the net. So just a continuation from last year is what you want to see from him.
Yeah, and I think his 200-foot game has come a long way as well. I think when you think of guys who score 40-ish goals, you think, oh, they're kind of one-dimensional or they're the best players on the planet. But I think his game has come a long, long way. Not only his playmaking we've seen take a big step, but his board play and one-on-one play has improved exponentially since he's come to Detroit. So honestly, I don't think there's a lot more you need to see out of Alex DeBrincat to validate his existence on this team or what would be a successful season for him. I think, if that second line can contribute a little bit more at 5-on-5 rather than the Red Wings power play was otherworldly last year. So if they can be better at 5-on-5, I think that would be a real success. But Alex DeBrincat's one of the best players on this team, and he brings that sort of mojo every game, and there's not a lot to quantify other than that.
Patrick Kane last year, 72 games, 21 goals, 38 assists, 59 points, and I think importantly, really seemed to come alive after they moved away from Derek Lalonde and into Todd McLellan, who came in and said, we talked about it a lot. He just said, play effing hockey, and really seemed to open up this team to do what they were able to do offensively and allowed them to lean on that and play of a more kind of offensively confident mindset, like just seemed to unlock something. And a lot of people were surprised that McLellan did that. And one of the biggest benefactors was Patrick Kane, who didn't really mince words when talking about what he thought was going wrong with the Red Wings before they moved away from Lalonde either. So do you see that kind of continued offensive performance from Patrick Kane last year to this year? 59 points. Do you see him repeating that, or is there going to be a drop off? Where do you see him kind of fitting into the offensive output?
At his age, it's almost unfair to expect him to put up 59 points again. I think he might do it, though. I think it's reasonable. If he only gets 50 points this year, 45, I don't think anybody's going to look at that and go, oh man, how could you? Like, he's like 100 years old on like half a hip. It's very understandable if he regresses a little bit, and then hopefully that's offset by possibly some Marco Kasper progression. That's hockey. That's the point of the game. You don't know until you play. But the way he looked last year, the way he's looked in preseason, he hasn't given me any reason to doubt that he's going to repeat that performance. And again, playing with a guy like Kasper, playing a guy like DeBrincat, playing on a power play unit like the Red Wings have, man, that all feeds right into his strengths. So I don't expect him to be a Selke nominee this year. I don't expect him to be the guy primarily transporting the puck, or, I'm not even sure I expect him to have a single forecheck this year, a single effective pressure in the offensive zone.
Not my job.
But I still think that equates to him having a very good year. And if he finished between 50 and 59 points again, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
I'll be shocked if he has less than 55 points this year. I think, another year on from hip resurfacing surgery, he said he's pain-free. He's on a line with guys he wants to play with, 2 honey badgers and 1 guy who's an ultimate goal scorer. This is also an Olympic year, and whether you believe Patrick Kane is one of the best American players and can play on that U.S. team or not, I think he's got some motivation after being invited to the summer camp. I think this will be a really interesting year for Patrick Kane, and if I'm going to put my neck out a little bit, I'll say he gets 65 plus points.
Wow. And you know what? Like most other guys, where you look at the age and the injury history and whatever, you do that calculation, they'd call both of you, Brad and Evan, insane. But this is a generational talent who has shown that he can, with the health that he now has, age in a way that's cerebral and leaning into his strengths, and you can see what he brings to the ice. Like, you can focus on the warts all you want, but find me another 36, 37-year-old who can do what Patrick Kane's doing out there. And I think you're both exactly right in terms of, he's playing with DeBrincat, who he has a history with across 2 teams now. He's playing with Kasper, who plays the kind of game that Kane needs. It's a really good recipe there to maximize what Kane brings. And then the effects that he has on the rest of the team. Like, I don't doubt what Lucas Raymond says when Lucas Raymond says Patrick Kane made a big difference in my game, not just in terms of how he shows up on the ice, but off the ice as well. Like, he brings a gravity to the room that means something.
And I know we'll get to this, but I think it's important when we talk about last season. If you do one full season with Todd McLellan last year rather than 30 games with Lalonde at the start, there's no doubt in my mind he's a 60-plus point player. No doubt.
Yeah. I completely agree. And like he talked about what he thought they were doing wrong. And I mean, it was put up or shut up, and he put up. After McLellan came in, like, he was one of the guys who really opened up and turned his game around. Not that he was the problem in Detroit, but he became an offensive factor again in a huge way.
It'll be really exciting to watch this season.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Michael Brandsegg-Nygard and the rest of the forwards. But first, a word from our sponsors. Hair loss isn't just about what's on your head. It's about how you feel when you look in the mirror. And just like getting back into game shape after a long off season, sometimes you need a little help regaining that confidence. With Hims, you can take that next step toward feeling like yourself again. They provide access to personalized care that fits your life, no blockbuster trades required. Hims offers access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that are proven to work, and if prescribed, they can help stop hair loss and even regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. That's a shorter turnaround time than some rebuilding teams manage. The process is straightforward. You fill out an online intake form, a licensed medical provider reviews your information, and if it's right for you, your treatment ships straight to your door. No waiting rooms, no overcomplicated playbook, just straightforward care that fits into your schedule. You'll get clear guidance, real results, and no hidden fees. It's like breaking a goal drought and getting your first-line confidence back. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/wingedwheel. That's hims.com/wingedwheel for your free online visit. hims.com/wingedwheel. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compounded drug products which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. 3 main ingredients go into our early morning off-season episodes: sarcasm, a healthy dose of blind optimism for a deep playoff run next season, and really good coffee. And that's where we have to give a shout out to Coffee Cult. We started drinking it after one too many late-night editing sessions, and it honestly ruined other coffee for us. You can actually taste the difference, seriously. They use specialty-grade Arabica beans, work directly with farmers, and they roast everything after you order. So you're not getting stale beans that have been sitting around. It's roasted fresh, and it shows. The dark roast, which is Evan's personal favorite, is smooth, full-bodied, and has notes of caramel and chocolate without that burnt aftertaste. The Sumatra is awesome and my go-to, really rich, deeper flavor with a bit of that brown sugar note to it. And they've got tons of single origin options for you as well. Colombia, Brazil, Kenya, you name it. And you can get 15% off any coffee with the code WWP, plus free US shipping if you spend over $49. Check them out at coffeecult.com. That's KOFFEEKULT.com. Use code WWP, get the discount, grab some cool apparel, and enjoy better coffee. Coffee Cult, spelled with a K. Welcome back. Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, one of the trio who made this team surprisingly out of camp, and a guy who Red Wings fans are excited about for good reason. Didn't just lead the team in goals and points and was leading the NHL in preseason and everything like that. Plays the kind of game where we have said, when this guy makes it, he plays a modern NHL kind of game where he will be a difference maker. And we're already going to see him in NHL games. For now, it looks like a third-line start, could potentially be a first-line option down the road. One of the best shots on the team already. What do you see from Michael Brandsegg-Nygard this season, and what are expectations for you in terms of a successful season?
Well, expectations, I'm just going to kind of lump him in the same category as Finnie. I don't think anybody gave him much of a shot being on the opening night roster. At least not like any legitimate shot. You know, we talked about everybody had a puncher's chance. So everything he does is found money. To me, he's probably got the widest range of outcomes of any forward on this team right now. If at game 82, he's playing on the first line and has 45 points, I wouldn't be shocked. If in 7 games he's back in Grand Rapids, I'm not shocked. You know what I mean? Just the way he plays, he can do anything in this lineup. He can be on the third line, play on a checking line, chip in a bit of offense, but be an effective 200-foot player. If he needs to go up to the first line and be the trigger man, play that DeBrincat role, I could also see that for him. And, when he was drafted, that's what we said we loved about him, is he can do anything. And his playmaking and his ability to play that, when I was talking about with Raymond, that modern style, surprised me how good he was at that. I didn't think that was going to be his calling card. And not that he's elite or above average at it, but he could do it. And you couple that with his shot and his tenacity and his physical play. Like I said, 5 games to Grand Rapids or a Calder finalist. I could see all of that for him this year. But again, the expectation is he's probably playing a handful of games and going to Grand Rapids, and anything beyond that means it's going very, very well for him.
Yeah, success for him is measured in games played this year. Plain and simple for me.
Yeah, mine's not quite the same. And I'm not sure I'm not even sure if I truly believe what I'm going to say, but I think, the different, I don't want to say him and Emmitt Finnie have the same expectations, right? One's a 7th round pick who's just burst onto the scene. Other guy's a 1st round pick, top 15 pick in the NHL draft. There should be some expectations on him. Is that unfair? Yeah, maybe it is, but the Red Wings picking you there means there's something that you have to bring to the NHL lineup. Is now the time? Maybe, maybe not. But, everything we've seen in preseason leads me to believe there should be some expectations on this kid. And whether that's, 40 to 50 points, I'm not sure. But I think should be higher expectations on him than Emmitt Finnie.
I think that's fair enough. And you know what? If the games played do stack up, then you're yeah, he's contributing with his goals. And I mean, your take is it's real, right? This is a team who's missed the playoffs so many years, and you're seeing this wave of rookies make the team, but you want to see it translate. And I don't think I think you can say you have to understand that this kid's most likely season is going to involve some time in the AHL. And if that's not the case, then that's a huge success. And not calling either direction impossible, but just, to put percentages on it. But also that this team needs scoring, and this team needs more snarl, and this team needs better depth. And if he's going to make the team, then that's what he has to provide. MBN is going to be, I think, honest. I truly do believe in the way his game can fit into this team. And I go back to what I said about Kasper. He has a model to learn from there. And again,
who do you think of him and Finnie has a higher chance of playing more games for the Red Wings
MBN.
This year? Okay.
Yeah, I think he answers a bigger, Finnie forced his way on this team.
Yes.
And not to say MBN did not. He also did. But MBN also has the tools that the Red Wings, it's hard to articulate this without sounding like I'm selling Finnie short. But it just feels like MBN at a base level can solve more questions up and down the lineup. Finnie can too, but I also think Finnie can also really benefit from time down in Grand Rapids. You look at the kind of playing time MBN has in his career, he has played pro hockey in the SHL, and I think that counts for something too.
I think you could also make the argument the reason MBN's on the third line and Finnie's on the first line is because there might be something to McLellan thinking, I need to balance the scoring in this lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And throwing Copp and MBN on that third line, that line can score. And, if Larkin and Raymond can do their thing and Finnie can just keep up, that line will score. Because it even shows Finnie's on the first line, yes. MBN's on the power play, Finnie is not. So even the organization recognizes, okay, who's the natural scorer here? It's MBN. Because he's got the shot, Finnie doesn't.
If they both shot left, stupid hypothetical, I know. But does MBN get the first line? Potentially, in theory. I mean, we didn't really see it, so it's hard to, once again, impossible hypothetical. But you know what I'm trying to allude to?
I see what you're saying.
I don't think it matters because I think MBN can play as off wing. I think MBN on the left side as a one-time option with Raymond and Larkin is appealing. I genuinely think there's a bit of, yeah, it would make more sense to have MBN here, but we need some scoring down the lineup. And with the way he plays, the snarl, the tenacity, the physical play, the 200-foot game, he can play on that third line and still produce, where I'd be skeptical that Finnie would be able to produce offense without the help of a Larkin and a Raymond at this level at this point.
True.
It's all very, in my mind, marginal. Let's see how they acquit themselves over the first, call it 10 games, call it 12, or however much it ends up being. But yeah, if you had to call it right now, I guess that would be the baseline for both of those guys. But still, I think with Brandsegg-Nygard, use that shot, use that snarl. Hell, I mean, if the Red Wings power play is going to stay good, a great way to do that is to add more tools to the second unit as well, right? So, okay, to move along the forwards a bit more quickly, we're going to start to batch guys here, and I'm going to look at this group of Copp and Compher and Rasmussen. Yeah, let's say Copp, Compher, Rasmussen, Appleton, Soderblom, JVR, Berggren, like just the rest of that depth. Overall, the lack of scoring and support from the Red Wings depth was the storyline last season. Brad, you talked at length about it for leading up to the season, during the season, and afterwards for good reason. And MBN is hopefully part of that solution. Andrew Copp really found form after Todd McLellan came in last year, so hopefully continuing that adds to the scoring depth of this team. And JT Compher is a guy who they are hoping, surrounding him with Copp and MBN, they can instill a little bit of a resurgence in him. So what are you looking for from this depth and any kind of individual storylines that you're focusing in on?
Two generic statements that I'll make first before I get to some of the bigger things I'm focusing on. One, they need to friggin' score. I don't care how good defensively. I'm sick of hearing about the 200-foot game. There's a million players that can do that for $2 million a year. This group has multiple players making over $3 million. With that comes at least some reasonable expectation of offense. And it can't just be MBN. And two, a majority of these bottom sixers are going to be playing on the penalty kill. If you're not going to score, you damn well better solve a problem on this team. Right? That's why a guy like Appleton was brought in. Copp, Compher are going to get run there. Rasmussen's probably going to get run there. Some of those guys we know can score. Some of those guys we know won't. So the ones that are not, you better be a solution for something. And I look at the penalty kill there. I think, outside of MBN, the biggest story for me in the bottom six that I'm looking at this year, and absolutely no pun intended there, is Soderblom, because he's the wild card. His underlying numbers are very good, at least relative to the rest of this group. We've talked about what a unicorn he is with his size and skill. I don't really need him to be nasty as long as he's using his size and frame effectively, which with him, it really does come and go. I think if, I don't care which line you call the third line, call the fourth line, they're still going to probably get 8 to 12 even strength minutes each. If you can get 15 to 20 goals from Soderblom on either of those lines, which he is more than capable of, it really does change the dynamic of that group. Because if you have Soderblom on the fourth line, call it, and MBN and Copp on the third line putting up genuine offense, it almost doesn't matter what the other three guys are doing, because that's half your bottom six being legit offensive threats. And it will take the pressure off the other guys. It will take the pressure off the top six. It will take the pressure off the power play to have to carry the offense of this team. And again, I'm not saying Soderblom needs to put up 25, MBN needs to put up 30, Copp needs to put up 20. You get 45 from those guys cumulatively, that's a big friggin' deal. And that's an attainable target. And then we can sit here and talk about, okay, well, whatever JVR, Rasmussen, Compher, Berggren produce is bonus. We don't need them to be world beaters. We just need them to be capable. And again, is that unfair to put on MBN, Soderblom, and Copp? Absolutely. Well, maybe not for Copp with his contract. That should be expected. But I think that is the path, the most likely path, I'll call it, to this bottom six being truly successful.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that, right? Like you look at the guys who can have any offensive output between whichever one of Soderblom or Berggren are playing in the roster, JVR when he slots back in, MBN, and then at least somewhat from Copp and Compher. You just want it's not going to be everyone clicking at all times, firing on all cylinders. You're not going to get 15 to 20 from each of them. Absolutely no way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be the depth players that they are. But just enough where enough guys show up. That's the offensive side of things. And then, yeah, you get to the PK and, jumping ahead to special teams here. The PK legitimately could not be worse. You're hoping that a different set of players or a different system and more time to practice and whatever it may be, Appleton coming in and depending on how they use him there, you just need to be better than sucking horrendously. There's not a ton of expectations. There's obviously going to be focus on guys like Compher. Are you going to be able to turn it around this year the way Copp did last year? You look at Appleton, you like what you see from any kind of checking line that he's on. Soderblom, can you take a step or is it kind of sit around the periphery for him? Berggren, are you going to earn a spot on this team or are you going to get bounced when Danielson comes back or Mazur makes the team or whatever it is because you're running out of space? Like these guys, they have a fire under their ass because there's Danielson coming back. There's Mazur who wants to make the team. There's young guys who are going to be here soon enough. Buchelnikov, Kiiskinen, if everything goes well, Carter Bear. Like there's no shortage of continued stories like MBN and Finnie on offense to come in. They're going to have to earn their spots. It's about winning this year, but they're also auditioning for their futures with this team.
That was the point I was going to make, and that was the biggest thing I need to see out of the bottom, we'll say 6-7 guys this year, is if they're not motivated to get up for games this year, then they're a lost cause, and I'm fine moving on with them because, like you said, they just watched 3 rookies make the team. There are more coming, and those types of guys will get pushed out very easily. So if Compher's doing his cardio games per 60 again this year, if Michael Rasmussen continues to do cardio games per 60, like Berggren, this is another, like, I think we say this every year, but this is the year. So there's a lot of guys playing for their, the longevity of their careers. I need to see some signs of life out of them. And it doesn't mean they have to go and put up, 40 points. I need to see them contribute in some meaningful way, whether that's the PK or you're difficult to play against and you neutralize the other team's best players, or you just go out there and blow some guys up from time to time, or you stand up for your teammates, even though if you're not a fighter, you're going to go out there and try and beat somebody up because they took a run at MBN or Marco Kasper. I just need to see something. The bar is so low with almost all of these guys, it should be impossible for them to not just wiggle over top of it.
Couldn't put it better. So with that, let's jump over to defense. We'll start with the headliner, Mo Seider. Coming in, has been the guy since he's come into the league, has played 82 games every single one of the 4 seasons he's been in the league. It's year 5. What do you see from Mo Seider this season?
82 games per year with the role he's been playing.
He has seen some shit.
This is the closest anybody's ever going to get to Glenn Hall's type of record, at least in vibes. Just impossible.
I can't believe the amount of pucks to his insanely long shins he's taken, and he has not missed a single game.
Thank God for Simon Edvinsson. Otherwise, I think Mo Seider might actually perish this year.
He lived a full life just in a very condensed amount of time.
Yeah. Seider, he is what he is, and that is a number 1 defenseman in the NHL who can provide you some offense, run a power play, and be elite defensively. Again, he's a year older than Raymond, so you can maybe expect some progression to his game still at this point, but I think at this point we're dealing in the margins. Maybe an extra 5 points, maybe a touch 5-10% better defensively. I don't think he's going to dramatically change or improve from what he is. But what he is right now is probably a top 15 defenseman in the NHL. And that's okay. If he repeats what he did last year, massive success.
If any weight is taken off of his shoulders, which has been a little bit in terms of deployment, he had historically hard NHL deployment, and then he went from being like the absolute worst the league has ever seen since they started tracking it to like just like top 5 hardest minutes or whatever it was. If that goes any further, then I could see him creep up his point totals again. Like, I know he hit that 50-point mark in the first year, and people have been looking for that again, but 50, 42, 42, 46, that's remarkably consistent considering he's been playing with Ben Chiarot. Again, no disrespect meant to Ben Chiarot. He just shouldn't have to be playing first-line minutes. That's a slotting, that's a personnel issue, not Ben Chiarot's fault. But if Seider wasn't playing with Ben Chiarot, and let's say he could play with Edvinsson full-time, which, hey, you never know this season.
They were too good. They had to spread them out.
Yes. There's more to him. I don't think he's like a 80-point defenseman. That's not what I'm saying. I agree with Brad overall. You love what you see from Mo Seider. If you want to make any kind of request, it's that he continues what he did last year, which is just lean into the nasty part of his game. You're huge and you can obliterate people. I don't even care if he puts himself out of position from time to time. You just kind of love to see it, and it gives a spark to the team, and it means he's a force out there. I know it's not always his MO, so I'm not saying he's wrong for not doing it always, but it's good when you can have that physical, imposing presence. I think it just builds out his impact on the ice a bit more. But all in all, Mo Seider is just that guy where you look at him and you go, thank God we've had him, because it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, it absolutely could have been. And I will be this is another guy I'm very curious to watch this year, because now he's, I'll say, unshackled from the Derek Lalonde regime. And Todd McLellan likes his defensemen to be a part of the play. So if we've got all these other defensemen coming in and taking steps, will this, allow Moritz Seider to take more chances? Will it allow him to bring that sort of edgy, in-your-face, heavy style game that he has in him? Because if Mo Seider took penalties before, like, there was nobody on the defensive end backing him up. So with the rising of the floor with everybody else in the decor now, I want to see Moritz Seider assert himself, and he asserted himself in the red and white game against JT Compher, so we know it's there. I hope that this is the year he gets back to sort of being that tough German, the smooth face, baby face killer.
Oh, yeah.
You just look at him, and you're like, there's no way this guy is tough, and then he just puts you into the 16th row.
That's so funny when that happens too. It's like he'll hit someone like that, and then someone will inevitably post a gif of him turning and swirling his hair around.
Yes, it's very confusing, but I would love to see him get back to that a little bit this year.
Simon Edvinsson on the left side, next guy we'll talk about, had a great, effective rookie season for the Red Wings. I know it wasn't technically, but by all rights it was. And I think you saw him progress with his game, and it wasn't a perfect ascension every single game, one after the other, but by the end of it, you could see that he is the next most important defenseman on the Red Wings team, and not a completely identical game to Mo Seider, but brings a lot of the same elements. Rangy, uses his stick to save himself when he gets beat, but can move really well. Has a lot of skill that he likes to demonstrate with the puck as well. You're seeing him start to make decisions a little bit quicker than when they brought him in and drafted him, so you're seeing his offensive game progress. What do you see from Simon Edvinsson as the next step this year?
Could be the biggest development in the Wings Cup window, what happens with Edvinsson this year. Because I think Edvinsson's ceiling is pretty damn close to Mo Seider. I don't think he's got quite the same nasty streak Seider does, but he put up over 30 even strength points last year as a rookie defenseman.
They've both had like unlikely fights. We remember Edvinsson with Crookshank, and then, hey, Mo Seider beat the hell out of, who was it?
Philip Forsberg. The handsomest fight in NHL history.
Yeah.
And
I
all
think
the
they're both
hair
pretty
everywhere.
nasty in their own ways.
Well, that fight was great because hair was everywhere. Seider's and Forsberg's mustache, and just a sight to behold. But Edvinsson uses his body well. He defends extremely well. Again, I think his offense is underrated.
I agree.
He put up over 30 points. Did he get any power play time last year? Like, Mo Seider put up over almost 50 points, which is great, but he was power play 1 QB. I don't think Edvinsson even got much run on power play 2 and still put up those numbers. He's an excellent transporter of the puck. So like Kasper, if he can just avoid the sophomore slump and anchor that number 2 pairing and again put up that 35-ish points. Like, that is a hell of a 1-2 to have for the next near decade plus. Like, again, I think Simon Edvinsson's development is going to go a very, very long way to determining how good the Red Wings actually are going to be over the next decade.
If they can move him up to that first pair, I think it's more than just...
Spoiler, right now, they can't.
No. Well, I mean, let's see how things go with ASP and
not this year.
But if he ever gets that first pair, it's more than just, more ice time for Simon Edvinsson and a better partner for Mo Seider. It's like you're unlocking 1.5 players.
Yeah, we saw for a brief window last year that could be one of the best pairings in the NHL. Another guy I'm super curious to see, how did his offseason go? We know he was hurt coming into training camp. A year under Todd McLellan, I think we're going to see more offense from him. He is very much a key component to the Red Wings contention window. So if he can take another step forward and assert himself as one of the best players on this team, I think the Red Wings will be in extremely good shape.
Now let's get to the story of the blue line this year, who is Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who it looks like is starting on the second pair. We always said Axel Sandin-Pellikka is the second pair right shot defenseman of the future. And we just didn't think it happened this year. We weren't expecting it. And from the start of training camp to now, it looks like he's had half a season's worth of progression and development, where you've really seen him, shine and use his game and get better with every single shift. And he's starting with Simon Edvinsson, it looks like. What do you expect from Axel Sandin-Pellikka in terms of what's successful for him and where he could impact the Red Wings blue line?
Stop me if you've heard this phrase this episode before. Found money for this season. Because again, we know his pedigree. He's a first-round pick. We know his ceiling. But most people thought, okay, he'll need at least a year in Grand Rapids, and that might end up being the ultimate destination for him, and that's fine. But he's starting, as it looks right now, on the second pair with Simon Edvinsson. He had a great preseason. It looks like they've got him running power play too. They're putting him right into the fire. He is not getting eased into this, and I am super curious to see how this goes. I loved what I've seen from him in his development going into his draft, post-draft, preseason. He has not given us any red flags to think that he is not capable of being the long-term second pair, possibly QB1, because I would think with his skill set in 2 to 3 years, him and Mo Seider are flipping power plays is probably the more likely scenario here. But man, even though expectations are very tempered, I gotta say my hopes are high, very high for him, just because I think he has the highest ceiling of the 3 rookies that made this team. But he's also, given his dimensions, role, and position, the most likely to struggle.
The way you said dimensions there, you knew that statement was coming from a fellow short king.
Yes.
It's not like he's tiny either.
Yeah, but Edvinsson's massive, so if you average out that pairing, they're still probably above league average.
It's like 6'3".
Like,
he's a quasi 6'3", is what I've been saying.
I fully agree on Sandin-Pellikka, like in terms of the mountain he has to overcome to really stick there. The shocking part of it is that he has already overcome so much of it. And I maintain what I said last episode, which is that you can make mistakes at the NHL level and it can really hamper your progress and really hurt your long-term development, which is why Grand Rapids is such a good option, especially for players like Sandin-Pellikka, and especially at a position like defense, where you do need kind of more time to learn how to play it at the NHL level. But special players can learn at the NHL level, and I don't think everyone can, but what we've seen from Sandin-Pellikka so far in terms of talent, his hockey IQ, and his ability to improve rapidly, I think he's earned the opportunity to continue to prove everyone wrong and learn on the job. And a little bit like Emmitt Finnie, that's a product of circumstance as well. There is no other option that's good on that second pair on the right side. It's been a problem for a long, long, long time on this team. And so he can only play the cards he's dealt, and that was an opportunity he had, and he seized it. So good on him. And Yeah, if he sticks all 82, then that is a great thing for the Red Wings because that means he is doing better than the other random veteran they would have been slapping there for the last however many years, and that's points in the standings for me.
I believe they call that Justin Hall.
Jeff Petrie, to the point where we were defending Jeff Petrie because it could have been worse. How sad of a statement is it? Jeff Petrie was playing on the second pair, and it could have been worse.
We've come a long way.
And he hasn't even played a game yet, and we've come a long way.
That's how certain we are that it can't be worse.
Listen, we are 1 5-game tough stretch away from a 19, 20-year-old defenseman, however old he is, from getting a second pair Travis Hamonic, okay? Don't count your eggs before they hatch.
And like, to steal from you earlier this episode, statistically speaking, we are going to see second pair Travis Hamonic or JBD or something this season as people feel their way out through the roster and develop and things. But yeah, the fact that we have Sandin-Pellikka here at all is huge.
It's been no short of remarkable watching ASP learn the pro North American game. Like, we always talk about guys who come over. It's like, oh, it's going to take them time. It's smaller ice. Things happen a lot quicker in a smaller dimension, and just the skill is just at a different level. Well, he figured that out in the preseason, which, mind you, was 60-plus games. So it's not that amazing, but the fact that he made this team out of camp when I think almost everybody would have said, yeah, he'll just probably spend the year in Grand Rapids, be PP1 down there, and put up an ungodly number of points. But he is on the opening night roster of the Detroit Red Wings because he's good enough to do it already.
Yeah.
In terms of expectations, I truly don't have anything. I'm just super excited to watch him play because he is better when he plays with better players. And I'm just excited to see how this all plays out. And, he's got Simon Edvinsson on his other side, a fellow countryman. Like, I'm sure that will help ease him into, make him feel more comfortable. I'm super, super excited.
All right, another quick break here. When we're back, we're going to continue the defense with Albert Johansson. Another word from our sponsors back after this. Albert Johansson. Last year, Todd McLellan came in, gave him that opportunity on the second pair with Simon Edvinsson, and it was tough. Like, he had to play some hard minutes, and you could tell that he really was grinding through it at points, but also was, crazy successful relative to what the start of his season was and what expectations were, and was one of those stories, much like Marco Kasper, where he blew everyone away. We said, what do you need to see from Albert Johansson this offseason? It's go get stronger. Get stronger on your feet, stronger on the puck, show that you can hang with those top 4 minutes, or at least play a role where you're anchoring your line and you can bring that kind of stability to your pairing. And I think that's what we saw this preseason. As of right now, it looks like he's going to be that left side anchor, so switching back over rather than the right side that they had him playing before. And it's either going to be Travis Hamonic or Bernard Docker. I think right now it's looking like Hamonic, but we'll see. But does Albert Johansson take another step this year? And I know, Brad, you're very fond of him, really seizing that role in the third pair. What do you expect from him in terms of a successful year?
Again, avoid the sophomore slump is the obvious part of this. Yeah, I'd like to see him emerge as more of the guy on that pair versus the accessory to Simon Edvinsson. And that's selling what he did short last year. Obviously, he played big minutes, and depending how it goes with ASP or JBD, he might have to go back to that second pair because they don't have any other options, which isn't the end of the world. But I think the Red Wings are better served if Albert Johansson can anchor a third pair, stabilize what has been a dumpster fire for, once again, the entirety of this podcast, and just give the Red Wings confidence that every time they're throwing a deep pair over the boards, there's at least someone going that they have full confidence in. You're getting it with Seider. You're getting it with Edvinsson. So if Johansson can be that guy, whether that's with Hamonic, ASP, or JBD, or whoever, you're not panicking. Might not be great, but you're not panicking like we have for so long. So really, that's what I want to see from him. Because we know what he can do with his skating. We know what he can do with the puck. We know what he can do with the first pass. And I don't think any of that's ever going to go away for him. It's just, now can he do it where he doesn't have the fail-safe of Simon Edvinsson right next to him?
Do you think he'll be like a 30-goal guy or more of a 60-assist guy?
Honestly, I don't think he's going to break Bobby Orr's scoring records, but like there will be a conversation.
Yeah, he'll flirt with some of those comparisons like Nakar, Carlson. Yeah. I know it's probably going to be like 6 goals or something like that, but you know they're going to be 5 of them are going to be on the top 15 goals of the year highlight reels.
Did it end up that he was the only Red Wing that got on that top 50 goal list?
It might have been. Fact check us on that. With Johansson, yeah, that stability, just further cementing yourself. And then honestly, what that unlocks is everything Brad said, but also a guy where, you need a little stint of someone to just slot up with Seider for a little bit. Is it ideal? No, but you're way more confident that he can go in there and hold his own for at least a bit and then move things around. ASP needs time in Grand Rapids. Great, you're going to put Albert Johansson back on that second pair on the right side. Like, just become the modern Red Wings. Whatever, pick your stability defenseman of this era. Maybe it's Ole Mata. Previous era, there's probably a sexier example, but just be that guy. And it's just because it's third pair doesn't mean bad defensemen. Good teams have good defensemen on the third pair.
Yeah, he's kind of that utility guy on the back end, right? Like, he takes a step forward, and Ben Chiarot's having a bad year or gets hurt. Maybe if we have the confidence, you put Albert Johansson up there. It's like, yeah, that bottom pair is now very questionable and terrifying, but you have the confidence that Albert Johansson can play in that position. Yeah, the expectations aren't super high. It's like you said, just continue to cement the foundation of what he's already been building upon and just continue to progress. Like, I don't think there's not a ton being asked of him that's outside of what he can accomplish.
All right, to batch the rest of the defensemen, we know the story on Ben Chiarot, Travis Hamonic, Erik Gustafsson. Bernard Docker is a little bit more of an interesting one. And then if you want to count Justin Hall down in Grand Rapids, who, if he's coming up, it's due to injury. But what do you, all in all, expect or want to see from the rest of the group?
Stability. Competence.
Is that want or expect?
Want.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you know what you're getting out of Ben Chiarot. You know what you're getting out of Travis Hamonic, which is hopefully a bit better than what you got from Justin Hall. You hope that if for whatever reason Erik Gustafsson's back in this lineup, he can give you more than he gave you last year. Bernard Docker, I think, is an interesting one, because if you can get any version of Bernard Docker that is cementing his role in the lineup, then that's a huge success too. That's the kind of guy who can fill in a depth role reliably. So the defense is still the biggest question mark I have about this team, but I do see the makings of a version of this defense that is actually far from the abominations it's been in the past. It's just far also from a guarantee of that.
The bar is mostly super low again for the remainder of this decor. Ben Chiarot just has to be his usual self. We know what that is. That's fine. If you need to beat somebody up, please go do it. Maybe Bernard Docker is, the phrase of the episode, found money. That's about it.
Jumping over to goaltenders, John Gibson, the acquisition of the summer, the guy who they're hoping can help fill in the gaps that's been there for goaltending. Not the best preseason, but I mean, with as much as goaltending is voodoo, you don't put a lot of stock into preseason hockey. We've seen what John Gibson can do behind a bad team in Anaheim. What do you want to see from Gibson this year, and do you think he's going to be the difference maker the Red Wings have been looking for in net?
Consistency. That's going to be my word for goaltending this year. They've had great stretches of goaltending. They've had awful stretches of goaltending. If we can just get like a 905 every game, doesn't need to be world beating, just good. I don't expect John Gibson to repeat the 912 or whatever it was he had last season. But if he can play 50 games at a 906, the Red Wings are going to be better off than they were the last few years in net. Because then that takes the load off Talbot, and we know Talbot, what he is at this point. can't play those long stretches because he has too many inconsistent stretches at this age. But if he's only playing 30 to 35 games, I trust him to put out 25 to 30 good games if that's all that is being asked of him. That might require some, a 5-10 game look from a Sebastian Cossa to give those guys a rest, because I don't know if those two guys can add up to 82 games at this point in their careers. But no, you need John Gibson to be a number one. You need him to be healthy, and you need him to be consistent.
If I like what you said about the 905, if the two goalies average out to league average goaltending, I am happy. I think both of them have more in the tank. Cam Talbot, especially, we'll mix him in this conversation. Cam Talbot, especially first half of the season. I think as the season wears on, it's asking a little bit much of him, even though he is in insane shape. If you ever need motivation to go to the gym, look up how good a shape Cam Talbot's in. But the first half of the year is when you're probably going to get the best goaltending from him. John Gibson, I'll give him some time to acclimate. It's a new system, new team. It's a new way of seeing the defenseman in front of you, where the puck's going to be coming from, where you're going to be handling the puck, all those things. But I eventually do expect, both in terms of like, hey, this is what you're brought in for, but also this is the talent I know you have, him to be that difference maker. No disrespect to Alex Lyon or anyone else who has been here, but Gibson has the pedigree, and he has that talent in him. This is a genuine top goalie in the NHL who, when he's on, people are talking about him as in the upper echelon of the goalies in the league. So if him and Talbot can average out to league average goaltending, you can say whatever you want about the Red Wings, or say, I don't see them making it this year. They're too young, or they're too bad, or the defense is awful. If Cam Talbot and John Gibson put up league average goaltending in any of the previous 3 years, I think a couple of them, those are playoff teams for the Red Wings. They were that close. That's the expectation right there. And I think if there's ever going to be a silver bullet on this team, it's John Gibson.
Yeah, John Gibson needs to be available. He needs to be healthy. If he's not, then we're going to continue to have the Red Wings goaltending question marks. If he's out for stretches of the season and relies on Cam Talbot, that is going to be an issue for this team. That will not equate to more wins. Is this an improvement? Yes. This is a massive improvement from where the Red Wings goaltending was last year, but you're still asking a lot from a 32-year-old goalie and in John Gibson. And I know Cam Talbot is in incredible shape, but he's on the back half of 30s. And as someone who's in the middle of it, my knees hurt, so his knees have to hurt more. They're asking a lot.
What do you mean a 32-year-old goalie? John Gibson is like a few months older than me. Are you meant to say I'm on the decline, Evan?
Yes.
Okay. I was almost going to make another joke complaining about that, but then I realized you could have been way more harsh than me there and said, well, judging by your hairline.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, I like to get ahead of these things.
Pun intended?
Yeah, I was going to say. It never is with me. You know that.
That's true.
Between taking notes for the show and doing the show, I don't also have room. That's what you two are for. I've never believed in like the one fell swoop, this is going to be the difference maker, but this is one of those rare occasions.
This was the position of need the Red Wings had to fill. You looked at the goalie market. John Gibson was the best one available, and somehow the Red Wings got him. So, yes, mission accomplished there. But, when you back up a little bit, like, you're still relying on older goaltending. You don't get more healthy as your career progresses, especially as these guys have seen a lot of pucks throughout their career. I'm not saying this is a ticking time bomb or anything, but I'm, being a little bit more cautious than I think you guys might be.
Well, that's because you're rational and a loser, but probably pragmatic there. Okay, very quickly before we get into special teams, one more thing I want to talk about is coaching. Todd McLellan obviously came in, had the electric start to his tenure, and then another 7-game win streak right after that, and got this team pretty close to competing, if not for the injuries to the 2 key forwards after 4 Nations, and goaltending fell apart and everything else. But now a full offseason, there's been a lot made, I think, fairly about a full training camp and preseason of his systems. Trent Yawney and what he's been able to do on defense, you can't discount that as well. How much of an impact do you expect from that? We talked about it a little bit with Patrick Kane. You mentioned, Evan, if he had McLellan all last year, he would have been a 60-plus point player. What do you expect the McLellan effect to be this year?
Do it again. They were on a 90-something point pace from the point he got there. I don't expect the Red Wings to be a 100-point team. I probably don't even expect them to be a 95-point team. But if he can get them in that 90 to 95 range, if he can just make the penalty kill passable, you don't need him to do a lot else. He let loose the young guys in Johansson, Edvinsson, and Kasper last year, and it worked. He seems to be trying the same thing again this year with Finnie, ASP, and MBN, and that's exactly what this organization needs. If he can develop them well, if he can get the special teams, again, just better overall, net positive, keep the power play where it is, get the penalty kill a little better, that's good enough. That's all he needs. He doesn't need to be prime Scotty Bowman to have a very successful year with the Red Wings here.
Everything that's come out of McLellan has been positive to me for two reasons, and genuinely positive, not just because he's the Red Wings coach. One, the immediate effects you saw from him opening up this team in terms of their offensive ability. I really like what he said about, he seems to get the issues and where you're supposed to go in terms of culture in the room, how the team is supposed to show up. Like, I know it doesn't mean anything, but making Moritz, Seider, and Lucas Raymond the permanent
He's cutting the bullshit.
Like the A's for Seider and Raymond, this might just be like old school. We grew up in the era of like Don Cherry's Rock'em Sock'em hockey, the Red Wings dynasty, your best players had the A's and the C, but having Seider and Raymond as the permanent non-rotating A's, and there's a set leadership group on this team, it's just like this team is coming into a new era. There's a voice, there's a consistent message. He has them opened up offensively. He has the young guys clicking and taking on big roles, and not just from Kasper and Johansson last season. He has 3 young guys, rookies, making the team this season. And the flip side of that is some of those things were criticisms from his time in LA. There's Kings fans who were saying, oh, wait till you see how he handles your rookies and then tell me if you like him. It's been phenomenal. I've never seen an experienced coach not just embrace the youth movement, but make the most of it like him so far. So I actually think it's going to be a big impact.
Yeah, like you look at what he's done. It's he's simplified everything around the team. It's like, we're going to give the A's to our young guys who are the core of this team going forward. No more of this rotating A's because you're a vet and you're getting a participation ribbon. Like, it's very much now, these are our best players. They're going to be on this team long after I'm on this team and long after these vets are on this team. They're the leaders. Don't care. You think you're special because you've played in the league for 15 years? I don't care. These are the best players. They're our leadership group. You can chip in elsewhere. He's just kind of removed the musk of Derek Lalonde and forcing this defensive systems that these players clearly aren't going to be able to do, and just sort of said, you know what? Go do your thing. We're going to figure out how to make this team successful based on the types of players we have.
Rumor has it you could see him after hours putting red slipcovers over the black seats in the LCA and installing the LED roof that we were promised as well. Finishing the district Detroit himself.
You want to get a statue? That's a quick way to do it.
Lastly, before we get into predictions and stuff, I think we talked about it very simply put. Special teams, power play, if it stays anywhere close to as good as it was last season, that's a huge success. And then the penalty kill, you can regress in the power play a good amount. If you play anywhere close to average on the penalty kill, you are net positive on goals still, because that penalty kill was almost historically bad. And that's what the Red Wings have to change this year. Have to.
A massive improvement in the penalty kill can move them all the way up to like 25th in the league.
God, that's depressing.
Even if they average the penalty kill out with the power play, I still think that's a massive improvement, because if you would have told me the Red Wings had one of the best power plays in the league, I would have felt a little concerned about, this season. It's like, how are they going to be able to replicate that again? That's a tough thing to bet on. But if they can just improve the PK and power play, be whatever it wants to, if it's still league average, I think that's fine. But if they can improve the penalty kill to be not a complete and utter dumpster fire, even if it's 21st in the league, that's a huge point gain for the Red Wings.
All right, we're going to do 2 sets of predictions. First one, player predictions, and then the second one is the team standings predictions in terms of points in playoffs or not. So for player predictions, I want you to give me 3 things. Points leader, team MVP, and most improved. I'll start because I just threw this at you guys now. I'm going to go with a hot take here. Points leader will be Lucas Raymond. I'm going to go super optimistic here. I'm going to go so optimistic it's going to make you sick. Team MVP, John Gibson.
That is okay. Okay.
And most improved, I'm going to stick with my right shot defenseman, my brethren. I'm going to stick with Axel Sandin-Pellikka.
Most improved based on what?
Well, I mean, coming from nothing.
Wasn't even an NHL last year.
That's right.
Auto pick. That's an auto win.
Well, you can do the same with Finnie or MBN, but those are going to be my 3.
I'm going to go first 2. I'm going to go way out on a limb here. Points leader, Lucas Raymond. MVP, Mo Seider. I know. Bold takes.
MVP Mo Seider is actually a little bold considering what would need to go into that in terms of like the... carry on. I think that is good.
Okay, yeah. So those are my 2. Most improved. I was tempted to go with MBN, but I'm with Evan. Picking a rookie feels like cheating.
Oh, well, that's me.
Yeah, so I'm no cheater. I'm going to go... He's got a high bar to clear, but my prediction is Marco Kasper.
Okay.
I just got this feeling that a full season with McLellan and playing with DeBrincat and Kane, I think we might look at some numbers with him that are pretty damn impressive.
All right, points leader, no surprise because I think I mentioned this an hour and a half ago. Lucas Raymond, I think he is poised to just go supernova this year. Team MVP is a little bit more difficult, but I'm going to go with Lucas Raymond for that as well. I really think he is the straw that stirs the drink this year. Like if they want to make the playoffs, he's got to go and take it to another level. Most improved, I'm going to go with Simon Edvinsson. Not that I think he had a bad year last year at all. I think now that Derek Lalonde is gone, Todd McLellan lines up nicely with how Simon Edvinsson likes to play the game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him lead the Red Wings defense in points this year.
All right, now your final kind of summary overview of the team, where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are.
Can we do one hot take?
Yeah, one hot take. Hell yeah, let's go.
And it can't be like, Simon Edvinsson scores 15 goals. Like, it has to be something crazy. I want to hear something good. Something that you put your tinfoil hat on and you're like, I probably shouldn't say this on the record, but you know what? Let's have some fun.
Okay.
I don't have one.
I was going to say, at least you have one. So
you guys have to go first because I have to think of one.
He is going to make us look like absolute idiots, and then he's going to say, I think Elmer Soderblom is going to score 15 goals. That's what he said. That's what he's setting up for.
In 15 games.
I'm going to say, like, there's easy ones. Like, you could do DeBrincat, 45 goals. You can say Lucas Raymond, 90 points. I think if you wanted to get spicy, you can go Lucas Raymond, 100 points.
I was going to say, that's the only way you get a hot take with Lucas Raymond is it has to start with a 1 in either direction.
I'm gonna at least tie this into my very hot take in terms of team MVP. I say John Gibson finishes with over a 920.
920, yeah.
That is hot.
Because that would make him team MVP,
That
right?
is scorching hot.
I can't sit here and say John Gibson team MVP and then Lucas Raymond 100 points. Then they're winning the division if that's the case, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to get hyper specific here and just be really obnoxiously stupid about it. 15 goals, 27 assists, 3rd place Calder finalist Axel Sandin-Pellikka.
How many goals did you say?
15.
15, 27?
Yep.
Where'd you come up with 27?
I'm picking
one bigger
numbers.
Than 26.
You wanted hot takes, man. I'm getting I've been higher on ASP than most for a long time. So if I'm going to go hot takes, I got to put my money where my mouth is. And I've always been a big ASP believer. After seeing the love Lane Hudson got for what he did last year, I don't think ASP is going to have that kind of year, but I think there's a market that if there's a rookie defenseman who puts up over 40 points, which he's going to have the opportunity to do on the power play. Maybe he gets the same kind of love Lane Hudson did.
Oh, my take was hot. Of the goalies who have played 15 games or more, how many do you think finished with over a 920 last year?
Like 3.
4. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I got to lay in my bed. Go ahead, Evan.
I'm trying to pick one that doesn't involve the best players on this team. Immediately, I jumped to James Van Riemsdyk. He hasn't done this in like 4 years, but he scores 20 goals.
Oh, okay. Even with a cold start to the season.
There is the opportunity for him to play first line left wing. And I think if he does that, he's a veteran guy. He knows how to put the puck in the net. I think, that can almost be expected of him. Will that happen? I have very low expectations. Other than that, there's a couple guys like, Kasper pop off for 25. He's on a line where, we got DeBrincat with great playmaking. We've got Patrick Kane who can just, auto feed you goals. Maybe Marco Kasper pops off for 25, 30 goals.
I don't think
like
20.
one,
I don't think 25 for Kasper is all that hot a take.
I think 30 is where you start to get hot. But
well,
like
there's
that,
only
though.
so many goals that can be scored on that line. Like Alex DeBrincat is the auto trigger man for them.
I'll take more. I don't mind more.
That more is always good.
But no, I like that one. Okay, your overall summary of the team, how you think they're going to do this year, their strengths, their weaknesses, ending with their point totals, and yes or no to playoffs. Whatever we say now overrides any previous, division rankings or anything. So I'll start. Overall, this team, I think, has a huge opportunity to, one, surprise people because they are adding different elements to the mix when the elements that were added to the mix last year are still going to benefit them in bigger and better ways, or they should at least. You've seen what we said about Kasper and Johansson. Even if they take a step back, it's more time with them fitting in this team. The 3 rookies in this lineup add volatility, but necessary volatility, because the only other option was a flat return to last year's woes. And so is this team guaranteed to take a massive step forward? No, I think far from it. I think you can't deny that there's a huge risk to adding this many rookies all at once and then expecting immediate success. I think they're certainly cementing long-term success by doing this now. And this is an exciting thing for future seasons. But for this year, the volatility is huge. I can see this as a low 80s point team, and I could also see this as a mid 90s point team. Absolutely no problem. John Gibson is the single biggest needle mover. My biggest question mark on this team isn't actually the depth scoring, because I have more faith in it based on what was added and the different mix of guys and the fact that it can only, I hope it can only get better from where it was. But my biggest question is still the defense. At the end of the day, you're still trotting out Ben Chiarot in your first pair. At the end of the day, you're still pinning your hopes on a rookie in Axel Sandin-Pellikka who has a physical task ahead of him that's not easy to overcome. Now, I can see a solution where this works with Albert Johansson cementing that third pair, and between Bernard Docker and Hamonic, something sticks there. But that's, as Evan likes to say, it's a lot of ifs. So I think the defense for me is that kind of question mark of, are they going to be able to just stay solid and steady? The goaltending, I think they have all the personnel they need to be at least league average. Anything else is great. And you know what this team's best forwards can do. Who's going to make the biggest impact is John Gibson. What do I think they need to improve more than anything else is the defense. I think if Steve Yzerman at some point in this season can go out and make a move for a premier left shot defenseman, just a top 4 left shot defenseman of any kind, that would absolutely be a huge mix up in the best way. But as it is right now, that's still my weak spot. I'm genuinely optimistic. I'm not really kind of scratching to find optimism as I was in previous years. I'm genuinely optimistic that this can go really well with that kind of volatility baked in that I just mentioned. I'm going to stick with I think this is the same as I've given in previous years, 91, 92 points. I'll call it 92 points, and screw it, I'll say second wildcard seed.
Well, yeah, I think Montreal, 91 last year as wildcard too, so yeah, that makes sense.
And I think Gibson would be the difference maker there. And I'll tell you, it's tenuous. I'm not the most confident in that prediction because of you're banking a lot on ifs, which are rookies.
Yeah, your point on the volatility is good, and that's a really good word to use to describe it. I think the big difference for me this year, why I'm cautiously optimistic over previous years, is there's still way too many ifs for me to be comfortable with this team or have any confidence in them making the playoffs. But I think versus previous years, most of those ifs are more likely to hit than not. But the way it works is they're not all going to hit, right? But in previous years, we've been way out on a limb with some of those. Okay, well, if this happens or if that happens and we're reaching, I feel like on all the ifs this year, they're reasonable. Again, statistically, it's hockey. They are not all going to hit. You know, you look at all the guys who we hope avoid the sophomore slump, Kasper, Edvinsson, Johansson, it's not likely all of them avoid it. One of them is probably not going to reach up expectations, and they're all playing important roles, and that's probably going to hurt the team. Again, we have optimism for Finnie, MBN, ASP. Realistically, one or two of them is going to go back and spend a majority of the year in Grand Rapids, which means, not to be insulting, another veteran slappy goes back into the lineup, and that's a downgrade from what we're expecting right now. But it's not unreasonable to think there's a chance all of them hit. I just don't have confidence that all these ifs are going to hit. So again, I've got them 5th in the division. The number I had in mind for my points prediction was 89, but I'm going to change it on one thing and one thing alone because the math is just mathing in my head right now. Normally, I would always predict the Detroit Red Wings to lose to the Carolina Hurricanes. But I think there's one night this year where they play Carolina, they are going to steal 2 points. So that bumps them from 89
Why'd you look at me?
to 91 because of the bump they'll get on Sergei Fedorov's jersey
This guy
retirement
isn't taking
night.
his tinfoil hat off.
I like
91 points is
I
my
like that.
prediction this year, but I think they ultimately finished 9th in the East and just missed the playoffs.
I think you're a sicko for putting that together, and I fully buy it.
All right, well, how do you follow that up? My God.
Hey,
Evan's
you're
like-
the stats miner here, buddy. Find something.
Evan's like 83 points. Goaltending falls apart. The kids all go down.
Listen, I will start by saying this. I am excited for the start of Red Wings hockey this year. This is something that we have been waiting for, not just us, but fans in general have been waiting to see what happens when rookies make the opening night lineup. And we're ready to see if the youth movement is in full effect. I'm extremely excited this year because if none of them made the team and we're rolling back with the odds and ends of the NHL, this would not be a great way to go into the 100th season of the Detroit Red Wings. But I am excited to see how this all plays out. With that being said, I still don't think the Red Wings have done enough to address the needs to become a playoff team. John Gibson is an excellent add, direct position of need. Cam Talbot just needs to be Cam Talbot, but you're asking a lot of two aging goaltenders. I'm honestly a little bit more optimistic on the defensive aspect of this team. Like if ASP sticks, then that means you've got Seider, Edvinsson, ASP, and Johansson. That is a very solid defensive core. I think there's a lot of teams who would kill to have that kind of youth and potential of a D-core. But, they're still young. There's still a lot of growing. They're asking an absolute mountain of Moritz Seider every single season. But can Simon Edvinsson take a step again? Can Albert Johansson take a step? What is ASP going to bring? I think there's a lot of good things coming there, but it's still in its infancy for me. Then we look at the forward group, and that's where I still think there needs to be the most attention paid by Steve Yzerman. You do not have an elite first-line winger. Left side winger. You have Lucas Raymond, you have Dylan Larkin. I think it's time that we start addressing and making that one of the best lines in the league.
Well, they can do that by signing Connor, maybe McDavid, Eichel, Kaprizov.
Yeah, they could. You know what? Everyone keeps telling me the 2026 free agency crop is going to be outrageous. So why don't we just wait to see what happens with those guys?
Oh, by the way, Brad, you left your phone here at my house for the last 3 days.
There's nobody left.
You didn't miss much.
There's nobody left. So, you're asking a lot of whoever jumps into that spot to try and be a first line left winger. I think that's very TBD for me. Second line, amazing. Don't have to worry about that. I'm still not convinced anything's going to happen in the bottom six of the forward group. There's not enough turnover there for me to really feel confident that they're going to roll out some guys who can actually chip in on offense and not be a real anchor to this team. You're going to try MBN there. I think that's excellent. Let's see what he can do, but he still has to play with the JT Comphers. And no offense, Mason Appleton is not a world beater in terms of offensive production. So I like the direction the Red Wings are going. It finally feels like we're embracing the youth movement and admitting to ourselves that the rookies are better than the veterans that they've been bringing in over the past decade. But I just don't think it's their time yet to make the playoffs. And based on what we're seeing in the Atlantic, I just don't think they've improved enough to make the playoffs.
Give a number, you coward.
I'll say 88 points.
Okay. All right. We still have NHL news to get to, but that is our Detroit Red Wings season preview. Another quick break before jumping into what's happened across the league and then overtime. Welcome back. These are going to be, we have to talk about these contracts because they happened. We're going to go more in depth on the ramifications in future episodes, but obviously this is a mega episode. So we'll start with Connor McDavid. Signs the most team-friendly, but I like the way you put it, Brad, team-threatening deal I've ever seen from a superstar in NHL history. The $12.5 million that he signed for, I honestly think he left $6 million plus on the table each year, let alone the
That's just from Edmonton.
Yeah.
If he went to free agency, that was more than that.
It's max dollar. He could have max dollars every year. He could have 20% of the cap every year. But the 2-year term, that is him saying to the Edmonton Oilers, I could have left now. I believe that we can win with this team, but you need to prove it to me. I'm not committing here forever because I don't think our window is forever, and I don't see the makings of a forever window. You have 2 years to win with me, or I am gone, right?
No, it's literally a threat. That's what it was. Now, 3 years because he's still got 1 year left on the existing deal. There's one part of this I can't get out of my head. Good on Connor McDavid. A lot of guys talk about wanting to win. He quite literally is putting his money where his mouth is, saying, no, I want to win. Here's the money. Go use it on good players. And you've seen that immediately. Wallman is extended. Ekholm's extended. They're locking in. They're legitimately good players to build around.
Ekholm's extended at a silly low price, too.
Yeah, it's great.
He's $4 million range. That is ridiculous.
Again, putting his money where his mouth is. And this is what good teams need to do to some degree to be competitive. Every team has to have great contracts. And, who better to put your faith in than Stan Bowman?
A team notorious for good acquisitions and cap management.
I'll say I like Jake Wallman. I'm happy he landed somewhere. The first contract that came in afterwards was Wallman's, 7x7? I was like, okay, that's certainly...
That's a perfectly reasonable AAV for Jake Wallman, and the way it's structured right now, they do not give a crap about the back half of that contract.
Yeah, it felt like a bit high on the AAV. I felt like if you said to Jake Wallman, hey, I know he's older, but Matthias Ekholm's signing for $4 million, regardless, they need to figure it out on that team. They need to figure out goaltending. Let's see if Connor Ingram can bring them what they need, but that's a threat for sure because there's no reason why Connor McDavid couldn't have gone out and made $19 million a year. He dictates his he's one of the maybe 2 players in the league where he hands in his contract to the team and says, sign it.
If you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, you're more nervous now than you were before he signed that contract.
Yeah.
If you are Edmonton Oilers brass, you are more nervous now than you were before he signed that contract because this is a definitive deadline.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Would be super nervous as a fan because I haven't seen evidence that they know what they're doing to support Connor McDavid. And, they are 2-time Stanley Cup finalists, and I don't think it's because they made smart moves. They've just had two of the best players, one of the best players to ever play hockey. So this is great for them. They're literally putting their money where their mouth is. But the pressure is now never higher than it's ever been in Edmonton, and it's not on the players anymore.
I hope Edmonton fans have faith in Stan Bowman. All right, the knock-on effects of that. It seemed like teams were initially rattled by Kaprizov's $17 million, and then McDavid probably pissing off a lot of the NHLPA and players in his $12.5 million. There was a big flood of teams saying, all right, let's just get this in, because obviously the rising cap is like these salaries are getting far too high, far too fast, and the hype is going to basically be a runaway train. There's already talks of the $104 million of the future cap being $107 million. Like, these revenues are going way, 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 way up. Jack Eichel signs for $13.5 million, 8 years. No one expected him to leave. That's a big number. Jack Eichel could have got more on that, but
absolutely worth it.
Zero income tax state, et cetera, et cetera. The one that hurts is Kyle Connor, who Winnipeg gets him done 8 years, $12 million per year. That's a pretty chunk of change for Kyle Connor. Probably left a little bit on the table in terms of like where things were going, but at the same time, that's within his range. Most importantly, Red Wings fans were hoping that he would come home to Michigan. You know, we joked and we memed and we laughed and we were like, yeah, the Red Wings will trade for him or he'll sign in free agency. Kyle Connor wanted to stay in. What other evidence do you need?
Well, he couldn't leave. Like, there's no airport for him to get out.
That's a long road trip.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's just like, well, I'm already here. You might as well pay me.
In the words of Greg Wyshynski, all my stuff's here.
You know what? To give Winnipeg some credit, like, everyone always dumps on them for, like, it's Winnipeg, it snows there from Jan 1 to December 31st. Like, it's
pretty much.
And then when it's not, the mosquitoes take over. Like, it's just, it can be a tough place to live. But hey, Winnipeg locked up one of the cornerstone pieces of their franchise. Like, this is a tidy piece of business.
Okay, let's jump into the final segment here on the Winged Wheel podcast.
We're going to overtime.
Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Winged Wheel podcast. If you want to support the show, you get access to benefits like our bonus overtime episodes and any other bonus content that we've created. You're automatically entered into all of our giveaways. We give away 2 tickets to every Detroit Red Wings home game directly to our Patreon supporters. The sign-up link for entries for this season tickets is now live on Patreon, so go check that out if you're a Patreon supporter. You're also given access to our Patreon exclusive Discord and so much more. I'd tell you more about it, but I mean, it's a long episode. Oh, also, I'm wearing the 10th anniversary shirt here, and I'm doing a bad job, but on the back, you see a sweet design as well, and we'll give more details on this in a future episode, but these are live on the Winged Wheel podcast store.
I recognize 2 of the people on that shirt.
Yeah, the hair was pulled from a previous episode. All right, it's going to be a quick overtime segment here. Let's take some questions from our patrons. The Angry Ginger says, it appeared in one of the preseason games that they had Seider as QB and ASP on the flank on the power play. Do you see that being a solution long-term once Kane retires, allows for Ed to run PP2? Also, I should say, Axel Sandin-Pellikka has officially switched the hyphenation in his last name. He had done it in his jersey, so you've noticed before, but I was like, is he going to flip-flop, or is this just like a name bar thing? But he has switched to being hyphenated. But the power play question.
Thank God that was keeping me up at night.
That makes 2 of us.
Yeah, there's like, the only problem is the handedness, because where Sandin-Pellikka would go if he were to play the flank on the power play right now is where you're penciling in DeBrincat and an NBN. So there's probably a way to make that work, but it's not immediately obvious, if that makes sense.
Yep, definitely. All right, moving on here. Jack's dad says, how much influence did Todd have on keeping all 3 kids in the roster? Given how he's dealt with young talent in the past, do you think Yzerman had reservations with any of them, or did he just throw his hands up and say, screw it, let him play? He had a big influence. It's at the end of the day, the coach is going to decide who he thinks the best players are. Most GMs in this league are not going to arbitrarily make decisions or say these have to be the decisions. In very rare scenarios, when it gets marginal, you might see more of a conversation, but I think this is Todd saying, like, yeah, these guys are among the best players. And he'll tell you, like, he hadn't watched a lot or known a lot about them coming into camp, because how would he have, right?
Yeah, it's not his job to be watching what Grand Rapids or, other teams are doing. Like he's focused on the Red Wings. So yeah, it's the conversations are and final decisions are made as a group, but ultimately you you can't convince me that these guys aren't some of the best players that the Red Wings could put out.
Ben N. Seider. Had to read that one slowly to make sure I wasn't being duped. So when Danielson is ready to get called up and all the rookies are playing well, which vet do you think is most likely to get the axe? Also, do you see any chance others get called up this season, i.e. Mazur, Lombardi, Wallinder? It's not just them. Like Bouillon, I think, had moments where he looked pretty good too. Like I think Danielson, if it's like a wrist break or sprain or something that keeps him out longer, he'll need time to shake off the rust. Whichever of the bottom six is underperforming when he's ready, I'd say.
If Finnie or MBN are struggling, there's your obvious swap. The role he's most likely to play on this team are being occupied by either Compher or Rasmussen right now, but that would have to probably go really off the rails for that to happen. So you're probably looking at one of the lower end wingers, Soderblom, Berggren, JVR, whichever one of them's struggling.
Gretzky had it, lost it, says Logan Cooley may be cool to an extension in Utah. Given that the Kyle Connor dream is over, could the Red Wings offer anything palatable? I'm fine with including Danielson, Augustine, and any number of picks to get that done. Since signing UFAs is a thing of the past, we'll need to target RFAs to get our superstar.
Utah's in the same position as Detroit, probably even a little ahead of them, and Cooley's got a lot of team control years left, so I do not see a reality of that happening anytime soon.
Unless he forces his way out, then you kind of have to take a top price.
And again, not to poop on the party, but when players force their way out in situations like that, Detroit usually ain't at the top of their list of where they're forcing their way to.
Alex DeBrincat. I know. Java says, besides the three rookies already discussed, what other young players impressed in camp and which ones concerned you? I mean, we mentioned Johansson. If you want to qualify him in that group, I think he impressed. I think in moments, you also saw flashes from, Bouillon and Wallinder where you're like, you can see these guys as being NHL roster defensemen of the future. So you continue to see that fire being lit. I know the Mazur camp wasn't inspiring, but coming back from injury, I think you like to see at least the strength that he put on and the size he put on his frame. So I liked his. I think Danielson's camp
Lombardi, I thought, had a pretty solid camp overall. It kind of fizzled out by the end, but saw a lot of high-end ability out of him for spurts.
Yeah. I don't make too much of Mazur not making it, there's too much injury context there. I do want to see him find a way this year, though. That's a focus of mine. Okay, folks, this has been a long one. We're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast. Thank you so very much for tuning in to our very long but very exciting Detroit Red Wings season preview. If you're a new listener, not all of our episodes are this long. This is just, one of those pillar episodes, and there's lots to talk about. To all of our sponsors of the Winged Wheel Podcast, thank you so very much for supporting the show. And to our Patreon supporters, we could not do this without you. Patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast if you want to support the show. And if Patreon's not for you, but you still want to help us out, you can share this show with a friend, subscribe wherever you're getting this podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. Subscribe, hit the like, the thumbs up, the hearts, leave a star rating, a review. All of that really does help. To all of you who want to see us, Winged Wheel Podcast night at the LCA, wingedwheelpodcast.com/Red Wings. And to our name level supporters on Patreon, we could not do this without you. Arjun Shankar, Aikfer, THL Champ, Samuel Soderholm, Bellingham Acid Balls, Icon, Glenn Brabham, Rain Dano, Below Average Ball Hockey Goalie, Matthew M. Rice, Darb EQ, Sea Lion, Bingo Bango, Hassam Al-Qassem, Asher Killian, Kalen Wood, Alex Toger, That's What I Appreciate About You, Derek Enstam, Matt McKay, Jacob Turner, Andy Hardcore, Sam Bankson, Citizen High Five, R.A., Aaron Hudson, Admiral Matt S. of the Cheesebag Navy, The Crazy Son of a Beach Did It, Stephen Ortlieb, Jonathan Miller, Give Blood Fight Probert, DJ Denton, Carl Brutin-Naneluski, Jay Gollum, John Ingalls, CB55, Connor Scovey, Adam Zuiza, Adam Rose, Who, Steve R., Hockeytown Matt, Mr. Kuzi, Chaotic Monkey, Craig Kibble, Eyes Are Playing Stan, Clip Clop, Nene, Podgy 713. Now I have to learn how to click on a Macintosh. Griffin God Creatives, Marty, Kozlov's Punch to Foot's Head, Jeff Pridemore, Eric Hill, Butts Carlton, Best James Bond, Beer League legend, Alec, Mark Hernandez, Slim Smitty Cards, Grand Rapids Gurley, Anna Sleeman, William, Kip Tira Jr., Mike Asher, August, Brian Munn, General Andy Bohan of the Cheeseback Army, Quaz, Lonnie Zone, Dylan Larkin Trade Sacrifice, Antonio Gracias, Matt Keeler, Linda Hall, Itty Gritty Titties, Connor Layton, As Good As It Gets, Jeremiah Dobo, Josh Yelton, Brad Simmons, Darren Fick, Bex, the Hodag. Not only did the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup in 1967, they also won it in 1964, 63, and 62. Wow. Commander Ben Baron of the Cheeseback Space Force, Sandin-Pellikka's Pet Pelican, Griffey Boy, JM Rhapsody, your second favorite patron, Frank Stanley, Rosie Posey, Ophelia, that other guy, Angie, Carl Thames, the Hat 123, Steven, A.A. Ron, Corey Prida, All Motor, No Hands, Gene Sullivan, Roy Mudbutt, James Pridemore, Upernadian, Drop the Puck, Eric Nance, and Stanislavski, Jim, Valiant Massaballs, Wings Fan in St. Louis, Scott, Johnny Page, Lucas Raymond, Evans Brown, Pomeranian, Trent Thorough, Grepsky, Evan Beckner, Return of Jambo, C.E. Hayes, Finnie to the Rafters, Jacob Marsh, Falkness, 91 in the Rafters, and I'm Still Stranded in Arkansas, Fight Night at the Joe, Andrew Shaw, and Axel's Sandy-Pellikka. Thank you all so very much. Puck Drop next.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.
This message is brought to you by Greenlight Lending. Are you facing financial red lights on your home ownership journey? Don't have money for a down payment or closing costs? Struggling with your current mortgage payment or other debt obligations? Or maybe you have a complicated situation like credit challenges or self-employment income? At Greenlight Lending, they turn those red lights green with creative mortgage solutions for purchase and refinance loans. Their team crafts personalized plans with flexible closing cost options, competitive brokered rates, and innovative loan programs tailored to your needs. Whether it's finding the right loan or guiding you through the process, they're here to help you score your home ownership goals. Let's get you out of the penalty box and into the game. Head to gogreenlightlending.com to explore solutions or call Nick directly at 586-321-1888 for your customized plan. All loans are subject to credit approval, terms, and conditions. Rates and programs vary. Contact for details. Greenlight Lending, lighting the way to your financial future. NMLS 2676683, an equal housing opportunity lender, proud sponsor of the Winged Wheel Podcast.